Hello friends! I would like to take a moment to talk about the concept of my personal process of healing. And this came up in a conversation yesterday, and I have felt urges in the past to talk about this. I wrote about it quite a few years ago, but I feel like I can share so much more when I'm doing a video. So I want to go through my 4-step system of healing. This is something I developed through my intuition as something that I just recognized was working for me. And I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all solution for healing, but it has worked for me and continues to work for me in just about anything I go through. So I'm going to go through what these 4 steps are. So the 4 steps are rewind, rework, relax, release. Rewind, rework, relax, release. So step 1 is rewind. And this can be one of the trickiest parts because a lot of the time we don't want to think about our painful memories. And also they tend to linger in our subconscious and control our lives in ways that make it really hard to figure out where these choices we might make from our pain come from. And so long as these memories linger in our subconscious or silently rule our lives, we won't be able to bring them to the surface to actually do something about them. And bringing something to the surface is painful. It does hurt. And so it's actually, to me, one of the hardest steps is to actually bring our pain to the surface. And it could be one memory or a set of memories, but pain is pain. And so there is going to be a bit of pain in remembering something that has hurt you. But the beauty of bringing this to the surface in the system I use is that the next step is then rework. So when you bring this memory or set of memories to the surface, what we tend to do is replay the pain, replay the memory, which causes us to feel pain. Because we're not actually living through the experience now. The pain is coming from the resentment or the regret or whatever we might feel that's attached to that memory, because we have this idea of how it has hurt us or ruined our lives or whatever it may be. We tend to attach really negative aspects to this pain. So the point of reworking it is to find some solace and to find some balance in the pain. And instead of just seeing it as something negative, finding something beautiful that can come out of it. Now, I know that there are people in the world who really don't like the idea of turning their pain into something positive, but I really don't know how I would ever heal from something if I only saw the negative sides of it. And to me, there is always something positive that can be brought out from our pain. And I will explain how, because again, this is how I've healed myself through basically any pain I've gone through. So reworking for me has developed into 3 strategies, and I personally need to use at least 2 out of 3 of them, sometimes all 3. And the third one I got from a friend recently, so this was kind of added on. So the first 2, which I used for years and continue to use, are the concepts of grace and, I guess you could say, the ripple or butterfly effect. So grace, and this is the part a lot of people might not like, but grace is finding the lessons and blessings in something. We can find the grace in things if we choose to. And that's not just about being optimistic or, okay, now I'm going to twist my whole painful situation into something positive. It's really about digging deep into this memory or set of memories and kind of like finding the treasure in it and seeing how it can teach us something and also provide blessings. And this concept of grace ties into the next strategy, which is the ripple or butterfly effect. And it all ties into a concept of having gratitude. And gratitude is the ultimate healer here for me. So when I tie the concept of grace into the concept of the ripple or butterfly effect, which is essentially being able to see how all our pain and pleasure is connected and how it's all one and has all led us to this very moment here and now. When I see things in that light, it's very hard for me to have any more remorse or feelings of negativity toward my pain. And I'm not saying it's not painful. I'm saying that there's now an aspect to this pain that is very useful, that is very necessary to my path, and which is something I can finally see some light in and feel gratitude for. Because if it weren't for every little detail of every painful experience I've ever gone through, would I have ever felt all the pleasure of my life? When we look at the butterfly or ripple effect or whatever you want to call it, domino effect, there's many terms for this, we see that any small change in detail of any memory ever could have changed a ripple in thoughts, a ripple in patterns, a ripple in all outcomes, and probably would change these things because, little details, we don't really recognize just how much they matter, but they do. And if we were to go back in time and try to change our past in any way, the entire future would ripple out in a completely unique manner. And yeah, it might be really different in a good way too, but you're here, and this is your reality here, right now. And to be able to see how interconnected all of our pain and pleasure is, how it's all one and has led us here, and has led us to every pleasurable memory and to every lesson and blessing through our pain and pleasure. When we can see it that way and finally feel some gratitude for it all, that can be very healing. A third strategy is to do some inner child healing. And you don't even have to do inner child healing so much as you want to validate your feelings. You really want to look at the memory that was painful and try to decipher if there were any feelings or emotions or whatever it might be, if any of that was invalidated by the people in your life, in the situation at hand. What were you silenced? Were you silencing yourself? Were you unable to express the way you needed to? Were you unable to stop a situation from happening because you froze? Were you unable to use your voice and use your words and speak your truth? It can be very healing to look back at the ways you were invalidated or invalidated yourself and actually validate yourself. Actually write down what you actually felt. or speak into a voice memo, a recording of how you really wanted to use your voice in that moment. Do something to validate your feelings, the ones that didn't get expressed in the memory. And this can be such a quick process. You could be talking to a friend. You could be writing it in a journal, typing it out. You could speak it into a camera or just a regular voice recording. Something to express that which did not get expressed during the making of the memory. And this is surprisingly healing and works fairly quickly, because as soon as we validate that which was invalidated, we can breathe a sigh of relief. Wow, okay, that's how I really felt. Again, I don't know if this will work for everyone, but these are strategies that have certainly helped me. But ultimately, it is about finding the gratitude through the grace, and also growth, grace, growth, and gratitude. Because once we can find the lessons and blessings in things and see how it's all interconnected, it's so easy to be grateful. And of course, I already feel a gratitude just for existence, but it can be a little harder once you dig into the nooks and crannies of your memories to really feel gratitude for every little thing. I personally now live in a perpetual state of this, where no matter what I go through, that might be painful. And I might talk about how it's painful. But that doesn't mean that in my mind I'm not already processing it as, what am I learning? What kind of blessings are coming out of this? What is happening in the future moments to come that is connected to all of this and wouldn't be happening without that pain? How can I find the lessons and blessings in this? How can I grow from this? It's terribly beautiful when you start seeing things this way. And if this becomes a regular practice for you, it becomes automatic. And so healing for me is a very quick process. And I'm not saying I don't get hurt, because I do. But it's very easy for me to just kind of keep moving and flowing with my life, because I accept what's happening, because I'm in a constant state of seeing things through a frame of grace, growth, and gratitude. And I find that to be extremely healing, in the moment kind of healing. And I also work to validate my feelings in the moment. Even if I can't use my voice or my words in the moment, in my mind, I'm becoming a bit better about validating my own feelings. And that's a practice. It's all a practice. So, yeah, that's been really a beautiful, beautiful way for me to heal. And before I go on to the next 2 points, I really want to touch on something that I have been talking to friends about lately, which was kind of confusing for me, which is, we can have an underlying joy with life. We can be exuberantly happy with life, so ecstatic and in awe and full of wonder. We can be so happy talking to people, and yet go through something that is very painful and have that pain control us in an unconscious way. I mean, I have gone through years of feeling completely ecstatic and blissed out with life. And yet, I will admit I've had pain coursing through my veins and not been aware of it. Not been as aware as I maybe could have been. And I don't regret that. I think it's all important, and even in telling you this message here and now, it's important to say you can be happy and joyous and still experience pain and still have your pain control you in ways that would go unnoticed if you weren't aware enough. And it can make you make decisions that, again, you might be blinded by because you think you are so happy. You are so confused. How could I possibly be in any state of sadness or depression when I feel so joyous about life and am so full of excitement for this existence? Like, how is that possible? But it is. It's completely possible. And I really have just learned this recently because I was so confused about how it is I was feeling so happy all these years and yet making choices that seem to be attached to pain. Lo and behold, you can be both at once, happy and kind of sad. Kind of confusing. Underlying joy, and then this pain that has not been brought to our awareness. Again, which is why it's so important to bring it to our awareness, to let it surface and to really heal it. Yeah. And maybe there are painful situations you go through which you heal from much quicker, and maybe there are ones that you kind of like bury in the surface and you act like they're not there, and you kind of think it's not hurting you. Watch out for those. Anyway, now I want to get on to the last 2 points, which are really fun. Well, the last one is really fun. The third point of relax is just simple. Relax. You've now worked through your pain, for the most part, in a way that you can find the grace, growth, and gratitude in it. But now you get to relax. So if that's deep breathing, great. If that's pampering yourself in some way, great. If it's like making tea for yourself and sitting down, great. Whatever works for you, just relax because you've processed this pain. And the last step is release, which is my favorite because this is now about letting your emotions just flow out of you. There's a term for it called transmutation. And when we transmute, we take our energy, our emotional energy, and we transform it into something of creation, some kind of substance of art. And it's charged with our emotions. So for me, I'm doing it right now. I'm speaking into this camera about this topic, and I am transmuting. When I dance, when I write, when I make art of any kind, I feel that I am transmuting my emotional energy into this form of art. But there are countless ways to do this, and there are many modalities for transmutation, for taking our heart and turning it into art. And our heart doesn't necessarily have to be broken to do this. We can be very exuberant and happy with life and want to express that into art, and that is still a form of transmutation. But releasing, for me, does require this transmutation. And sometimes I do want to release all those good emotions too. I mean, I definitely want to release those onto the world. But there's a way to take our pain and release it in a healthy way. Whereas we're not yelling at people, we're not like getting angry behind the wheel at the person driving too slow, we're just not taking our anger out on the world. And instead, we are expressing our emotions through creation, through our art, whatever that might be for you. There are countless ways to do it. So yeah, I just really wanted to go through these steps with you, and I hope that they were helpful. And I would love to know if this inspires you in any way, or if you try it, let me know if it works for you. Because for me, this has been my savior. It has been what has helped me get through everything, basically. It's hard to tell at any given moment if we have healed from everything, and chances are we haven't. Chances are there are things buried deep within us from childhood, from adulthood, whatever, just things that are buried that we haven't quite brought to the surface yet, might never bring to the surface. And I'm not saying you have to bring everything to the surface, but just be mindful. Be mindful of what might be unconsciously controlling your decisions and work through that. And also, don't be afraid to reach out for a professional who really knows what they're talking about. Because this is something that's worked for me, and personally, I don't think I've had such deep trauma that I really would necessarily benefit too greatly from having a therapist or a psychologist. I can't be sure. Maybe I would, but at this point in my life, with what I've done to heal, I feel that I'm doing pretty okay here. But don't be afraid, because these people are here to help you. And they might have better tools than I do. But just to reiterate as well, it's very important to heal. Not just for ourselves, but for the world. So that we don't go on perpetuating the cycles of pain that have been perpetuated onto us. So, yeah. Love, light, and empathy to all of you. Thanks for listening.